Welcome to Soulful Practices Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Holling-Brooks, and over the past 20 years, I have been on a journey of healing and awakening. I'm also a coach and practitioner for clients on their journey of unbridling their true self. The number one question I'm asked is, what meditation or practice will help me reach my goals? While there is no one meditation or secret mantra that will unlock our own awakening, there is a doorway that will lead us there. And that's the doorway of learning and cultivating the skills of self-reflection and contemplation. Each episode of this podcast offers you pocket teachings and practices that you can implement right away to help you courageously connect with living your authentic soul-led life. Let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 37 of Soulful Practices Podcast. We are entering into season 4. This is episode 2, kind of within that one. And this season, we are going to be exploring one of my favorite topics that on the healing journey, a lot of it is going inward and going into, quote, that cocoon, where we do kind of separate ourselves in an actually really healthy way from that daily rhythm, just that karmic kind of wheel of this is how I show up for life, this is what's happening in life, and this is just the habitual rhythms of my life. And we start to kind of disconnect in actually what can feel like a little like confusing way, like the things that light us up of no longer seem to quite give us that same oomph. The things that we used to really enjoy engaging in, even like the tastes of the foods that we want, just don't quite, quote, do it for us anymore. And slowly the kind of the volume, so to speak, of life starts to get a little bit damper. And that is part of that spiritual and healing journey of going inward. We're being cued to let go of our life's momentum so that we can go into inner cocoon, so to speak. And in that cocoon, just like the butterfly, we are going to be asked to kind of munch. For those of you who don't know, it's really kind of fascinating. I love the metaphor and the analogies that come through from the butterfly is that once in the cocoon, the butterfly literally starts devouring itself. It munches itself. It breaks itself down from the form it was and turns itself into this proverbial goo, so to speak. And in this goo, there are these cells called imaginal cells. Just, I love the name of that. And these imaginal cells have within it the blueprint, the destiny of the next level, the next iteration, the next transformative way of being from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And we all have that within us in this metaphor. Like within us, there are built-in imaginal cells that really hold the different things that we're being asked to evolve into, to transform, to get to that, quote, next level of us that is already within inside of ourselves, even when we're in our caterpillar form, right? But to get to those cells, we do have to kind of go chompy on who we thought we were, how we thought we were trained to and conditioned to look at ourselves and to look at the world around us. We have to challenge those. And part of that is lovingly caring for the ways in which we did survive as a caterpillar, right? In this metaphor. And how do we do that in loving ways? And we get to this point in the journey of healing and awakening that the first wave of imaginal cells have come and kind of invited us into change, invited us to see there is a different potential within us. And what happens in the caterpillar, which I think is, again, just so fascinating, is the other cells have more real estate, so to speak, in that cocoon. And they actually fight back the old caterpillar ways of being, the old allegiances that we have to the old forms of the protective mechanisms. Hey, this is how I survived. It worked for me then. I think we can just reorganize, keep the main structure and do it again. And so they kind of attack those imaginal cells that are holding the future vision and the blueprint of where that being is being asked to go and transform and live differently, even within its own lifetime. And again, this is why the metaphor of the butterfly is so huge, is because we don't have to like just forget this lifetime and be like, well, I've had too many experiences that have put me on this track. I'm too old. I'm too this. I've missed this point. You know, other people have published 5 novels by this point, or like are international speakers, or we have a reason as to why we can't allow that transformative journey, that reinvention, that being able to move from who we truly be. We hold it back, and that's what happens to the butterfly. Those cells attack those imaginal cells first and take it down. The next thing that happens is just so like awe-inspiring is the imaginal cells kind of regroup, and they learn that they need to connect in community. They learn that they stop trying to tell all the other caterpillar cells like, hey, look, there is another way of being. And they start saying, you know what, we're going to connect to the other ones that can see this vision. We're going to hold that. We're going to start to live out our truth of what we know is true for us. And we're going to courageously start to just live it and start to breathe it and start to be it. And then the cells around it, the little caterpillar cells that are still stuck really in their way of being, start to look at that and say, hey, I can feel that resonance. It doesn't feel so scary to me. It feels like this might be doable. They can feel the support that now the imaginal cells, instead of trying to get them to believe it's possible, they actually start to feel the momentum that these cells have hold something real, hold a tangible way in which we can shift, change, and immerse ourselves. And so then it takes so much courage on both parts. These imaginal cells, it takes courage for them to boot up and say, yes, this is the way within us. This is who I truly am. This has been a part of me my whole life. And can I give it room? Can I give it, quote, real estate in my system? Can I connect with it and start to feed it, even if the world around me doesn't get it, doesn't understand it, sees it as a threat? Can I courageously connect with that? And then that takes courage. And then it also takes courage for the parts of us that are really still in allegiance, but this is how we survived. This is how we did what we did. This is the program, the book of life of how to work with the craziness, the unpredictable, the chaos, the feeling like everything is stacked against us. This way of being, these habits, these responses in our protective system, really it takes so much courage for them to pause, stop their attack, and open to curiosity amongst themselves, open to the rhythm of the parts of us that are strong, are rooted, know where they're going, and say, okay, I'm willing to try. I'm willing to stop trying to shift it, change it, make it something different. And all of a sudden, that inner war, that inner battle within us softens. Doesn't mean it still doesn't pop up every once in a while, but there's a structure within us to support us from inside of us. And once we have that inner structure, once we start building out that new, quote, body of self, then it's time for us to come out of the cocoon, to start to allow ourselves. And again, in the butterfly metaphor, it is that enabling of, if we pop that butterfly out of the cocoon, because we see it struggling, we see it like pushing, it no longer fits in that cocoon. Once what served it really helped it provide that space for that deep inner transformation. Now, if it stays in it, it's actually going to suffocate it. It's not going to allow it to breathe and do what it needs to do to nurture itself. So it does have to break down the very system that held us safe, right? And in the spiritual journey, this is that little bit of time. For me personally, a few years back in 2017 and 2018, I was asked by my body and the timeline of my life to really dive back into deep inner work via a cancer diagnosis and working my way through that. And the specific type of cancer that my body was working with didn't respond to traditional therapy, so it really told me to, quote, put my money where my mouth was and really lean on that healing toolbox that I had. And for everybody, any healing journey is very different for each one of them. So on that journey for me, a part of what that was for me was understanding that division within myself, understanding those inner wars at a level that I had not done. I'd already been on my spiritual journey for over 10 years at that point. I had a lot of this under my belt, but it was like time to go back, like go back to the basics and allow myself to see the parts of myself I couldn't see before. And that's what this episode is about. It's about releasing protective self-auditing, censoring, and editing, the ways in which we edit ourselves even from what we see, from what we hear, the way we let our wounds talk to us, the way we let our thoughts talk to us, the way we let our hearts talk to us, the way that we get stuck in these habitual editing ways that really disconnect us and divide us internally, or set these weird parameters where we don't give ourselves permission to let ourselves just like throw our arms down and be like, I'm so frustrated right now, because we think we have to keep it all. It's no worries, it's all good. If we're frustrated or irritated or a flash of anger, that somehow that means we're not doing this enlightenment, spiritual awakening, healing thing right. Is that true? Can we challenge that? Right? We're going to talk about all of that in this episode. And for me, in that 2 years of really what I call my like PhD dissertation in healing, I really saw the impact that happens when we self-edit, right? And when we take ourselves into what I call messy editing and messy reflection, and we're coming in trying to either always look like the pretty picture, or we don't want to acknowledge that these different parts of us exist, and we like say that's not true. These are all protective ways in which we all do it, because at some point in our life, those parts of us were not allowed to be connected to. And that is why the name of the season is Courageous Connection, and connecting in and to those different aspects of us. So throughout this season, we're really going to help you identify and become aware of those different hidden blocks, the ways in which you might be holding yourself in that protective cocoon. So when I got to the place where they were like, wow, radical remission, cancer free, we don't know what to do with you, so have fun, like let's just use you as a statistic and say, yay, that's great. You survived what is like really hard to survive. But I was then like, I had to re-engage with the world. I had to come back in, and everything I had figured out on the inside, that really that healing cocoon gave me permission, societal permission, to separate from those daily demands and requests and rhythms of my life. Like I had to go back in. And I had to go back in, and I was a radically different person inside and out. I was caterpillar to butterfly, or actually I like to think I was one type of butterfly to another one, right? But people just still knew me maybe as caterpillar Michelle, or that version of the butterfly Michelle, and they had no idea who this new one was. So some people could see it, some people could just feel it, some people could not see it at all, because they had their own editing goggles on of how they worked with me. And so it was this real push me, pull me that took a lot of courage to implement all of those changes outwardly, to connect with my life the way I found to do inwardly on that beautiful cocoon healing journey. And there was a lot of grief. I call it my 2 year retreat. Like, I got to do that, go to the quote mountainside, but without going to the mountain. I was still in my life, I was still there, but it was very pared down to just the basics, because I didn't have a lot of energy. But I had figured out what worked for what do I need to stay balanced and in harmony with myself. My value system had shifted and changed. The way in which I see the world, like a butterfly to and a caterpillar, are totally different. The caterpillar just knows the little tree that it was hatched on, right? It just knows to eat, crump, crump, crump. And it just knows it's driven to do these things. There's not a lot of choice. There's not a lot of consciousness. It's even driven to hang itself upside and either like wriggle itself out of its skin because its chrysalis is already there, or to wrap itself in a tomb if it builds that type of a cocoon, right? And it doesn't know why it's doing it. It doesn't really like have a whole lot of conscious choice in it. It's just survival drives, right? And we all have that aspect within us. As we then go to that personal level, is what do I want? What do I want to be? Well, when we come out, and Teresa of Avila, who is a mystic that lived back in the Middle Ages, and she was a Spanish Carmelite nun who really went against the order, like literally went against the order, and brought in this reformed Carmelite order where she was like, hey, we got to get out of the trappings of this quote religion and back into the soul back into the wisdoms. And she referred to this stage as the butterfly emerging with tattered wings. I love that imagery, because when we come out of this cocoon, we are a bit tattered. We have gone on this journey of literally consuming ourselves, breaking ourselves down, battling it out inside of ourselves, and then reorganizing ourselves to this place that we feel is more in alignment with who we are becoming and not who we were. The problem is when we come out of that journey, we're a little tattered, we're a little shaky, we need that struggle of that first part, and that's where the energy of courage comes back in. So it took a lot of courage for us to undo that conditioning inwardly. It takes even more courage for us to be willing to come out, unfurrow those tattered wings, and start to say, you know what? I want to release who I was and give breath of life, vitality, me to who I'm becoming. So that's what we are up to this season. I am so excited with this. When this season dropped in, I was just like, I want to record everything right now because I just know how timely this is given everything that's happening. And then just we are on a collective train to evolve. We are in that moment of where we're battling it out. Which versions of us as a collective are going to take hold? And I think we're in that first wave where the caterpillar cells fight back, the imaginary cells go, oh, we can't like it. But then if we can come into contact with ourselves, stop trying to beat down the bushes that aren't ready to give way, and we start to connect, courageously connect to ourselves and to our heart, and allow that connection to go little by little, like light from light, and honoring that light, supporting that light, that little by little, that vibration is just going to ripple out, and the cells around us that maybe don't have that faith or that ability to step into that vision will start to see it, start to feel it, and then start to awaken that that very cell is within them too. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Every time I see this vision, it's why I do what I do. So let's dive into this episode. That was a long like preamble to get to there, but it just felt really guided to come in. So during this episode, we are going to explore pretty much the main protective mechanism, like I said before, that really keeps us from being able to even see, to hear, to speak, to give breath. And space, literal space within our system, within our world around us. And that is the protective mechanism of self-editing or self-auditing, whatever you want to call it, that self-critic piece of us that hobbles us to the point where we can't even allow ourselves to complete a sentence. We start picking it apart, we start doing it, we think, oh, I should call that person because we felt that guidance from our heart. Well, then, no, that's silly, you don't know why, blah, 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 they'll think you're crazy, like whatever it is. Oh, create that beautiful blog and send it out there, or share this picture of the sunrise this morning with your friend. Like, it could be little and it can be big, but we edit ourselves, we chomp it down, we squash it before it even gets to go from thought to form. And if it gets into form, we even try to contain what that form is. And so by the time the form comes into place, it's so, quote, watered down and so hobbled and restrained, it's not has the full breath that our soul and our heart are asking us to engage with and connect with. And so I do want to just say there is a completely healthy version of self-reflection. What this podcast is the framework of that, right? Like, we can't change what we don't know. Awareness is step one in the 4 stages of transformation. Acceptance of what we're witnessing with love, with compassion, with willingness to honor that there's an exquisite reason is what my spiritual director brings to it. And I love that word so much. And, there's a reason why our mind and our body are doing what they're doing, and they're based off of that survival book, right? So we want to have compassion with ourselves. So clean reflection is when we have that ability to reflect inward, to connect with the parts of ourselves that have been disconnected, are running solo, trying to protect us at all costs, and the same in others. And can we lovingly hold a space that allows us to engage in new choices, new ways of tending to and being with those, That's all what I call clean or healthy self-reflection. And therefore, we can make clean and healthy self-corrections and edits in a positive way, right? Like I just got done bringing my second publishing uh, program products to fruition, right? And I could always keep editing. And the editor, he said to me, he was like, Michelle, no book is perfect. Like if that's what you're looking for to put this stamp on it, I lovingly invite you to let that go. And then he brought up like the Hobbit. Tolkien, one of the most like reviewed books that I absolutely love, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. He's like, even in his beloved copy, he finds edits as he's going through it. So he's like, are you trying to outdo Tolkien? And I was like, okay, yeah, let me let that go. And, that was a healthy self-reflection of seeing where editing to a point is good, but if you keep going, it squashes it. I'd still be rearranging little words and sentences. And yeah, are readers going to maybe find one? Sure, absolutely. And I'm going to welcome them. And when I go to do a second print of it, I'll be able to change that. In the meantime, it's perfectly fine. And actually, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's divine, and it's a part of life, right? So healthy self-reflection and connections is one thing. What we're talking about today, though, is the ones that run us ragged, the behind the scene, messy versions that are really rooted in protective stories and versions of ourselves that learn to self edit before the world around us could edit us. That learn to self censor is who the author that I'm going to give a quote to shortly, Africa Brooks. Brooke, not Brooks, sorry, I'm a Brooks, but hers is Brooke with an E. And what she calls self censoring or self censorship. And I love that word too, but that's her phrase. I've always called it self editing before I found her book, The Third Perspective, which I absolutely highly recommend to other people. The bottom line is that when we are self censoring, we are hemorrhaging the very creative energy, the spark, the grace, the inspiration, the fire within us that would give us the energy that we need to work through all these blocks to bring thought into form to fully manifest that which our heart is desiring or calling us to do. It just sucks it dry like a vacuum in a room sucking all the air out. It cannot survive, and we just then hemorrhage out our energy. And how does it impact us physically? Chronic fatigue, all of those ways, immune system issues, thyroid issues, because that's like that source of how that energy is. Sluggish liver, slow, sluggish metabolism system, because we're not allowing ourselves to edit and to shift in healthy ways. Like all these physical things come through. The way in which mentally too much stuff, like too many things, like this whirlwind. When I'm teaching mindfulness, I'll take a little thing of water and I'll put some sand down in it from the arena, because I'm usually teaching it out in the arena that I am, and I put a lid on top of it and I shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, and it's just a hot mess. You can't see through it. If we let it sit and we breathe and we do a little bit of a breathing and a reflection and a guided meditation, then I pick that up just a few short minutes later and it's back to being clear, and all the sand has gone to the bottom. And if I allow myself to sift that, then I can pour it through like a coffee filter, something that kind of catches that and brings that in. And again, more and more clarity, healthy self-reflection. But when we're just shaking, shaking, shaking and in our mind and working so hard to figure it out, we can't see, we can't do it, and that's mental fatigue. Then things like the protector of depression come in to unplug us so we don't have the energy to get in there and think, think, think. The need for doom scrolling comes in, and we indulge that. Just anything we can do to unplug the mind, because it's such stirred up in there, we don't know where to go. Spiritually, this looks like indecision. This looks like being cut off from our inner wisdom and guidance, because we are. When this is up and running and there's this much interference, our poor little heart's whispers can't make it through the decaphoning, like, raw, of the raging waters within ourselves, or the air coming in there. We're stuck in that wind tunnel and we can't hear it, even if it's right next to us, right? And so part of this is then we end up shifting, changing, editing, and trying to mold ourselves into something or someone that we think will be more appealing, more appropriate, more acceptable, will basically not get annihilated by the people around us. So, courageous connection requires us to truly let go of those habits of having that protective impulse, to be willing to say, okay, I'm not going to over edit myself. I'm not going to require myself to shift before I'm worthy of connecting to myself. I'm not going to require something to change or, put, I call it the Neptune haze from my astrology training, but like I don't want to create an illusion over top of it. That's self-centering, right? I had a client one time who came in and she plopped her journal down on the table before she got in an energy session, and she says, "I'm tired." And I was like, "Okay, from journaling? Like, catch me up, help me, drop me in with where you're at." And she was just like, "I realized," because I'd given her this assignment, that the place I even edit is even in my own journal. And I don't have my journal here right with me, but she's like, I caught it. I was picking words that were kind and compassionate. I wasn't allowing myself to just get raw and gritty and just real with how I felt, my emotions, my thoughts, because I was like, that's not kind, that's not caring, that's not what a light worker would feel, like all these things. And she was like, I'm exhausted. And she's like, and I'm pissed at you because I never saw it until I see it. And now I see it. And what do I do? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is what we do. We start to stop editing, right? Because when we do, then we can connect with that piece. It can truly feel seen, felt, and heard. And then it stops raging, because that's what we resist persists, which means this is going to build more energy behind it to try to punch its way through. And we can truly honor. Right, because for me and for most of the clients I work with, I'm not worried about you going into the narcissistic point of view or like really mean and cruel. Like that's not my concern, because that's just not your heart. My concern is, do we give a space for these parts of us that are hurt? We give grace. We know that hurt people are created. They weren't created in a vacuum. Something created them. Something created their jadedness, their heart being disconnected, the ways in which they are showing up in incredibly hurtful ways. So we can send a blanket level of compassion to something created them. And therefore we go hands off. We call in the medicine of forgiveness, which we're going to talk about here shortly. And we let go of them. And we bring the focus then to what was the impact that has never been allowed to be seen, that has never been given permission, has been censored out from being able to show up because it couldn't show up back then. I couldn't walk up to that person and be like, what you said was incredibly hurtful. And even if I did, they probably said, then grow a thicker skin. You should just toughen up. You're too sensitive. So we learn to edit ourselves. So the censorship that we're stuck in this messy version, is because somebody said it to us and we never want to feel that again. So we start to do it before we even get to the outside world. Again, it's really, really, it's so tight in here. And it is why this one wanted to come up first this season. So, like I said, author and coach and international speaker, just all around, just beautiful, brilliant soul, Africa Brooke. I invite you to look her up. She's just amazing. She wrote a book called The Third Perspective, and she dives deep into self-censoring and really describes this act of self-protection as it's when you silence your own voice and hold back thoughts, feelings, or knowledge out of fear, out of doubt, or desire to fit in. Okay, I've got it in the show notes below. I've got this little quote. But let me just share this again and really feel in. I invite you, as we're doing this, just feel in and around your body. Where is this showing up for you? It's going to be where your system has put like little tic tacs all over the place, these edits throughout the years. So self-censorship is when we silence, we make something mute. We don't give it a voice. We close our ears. We become deaf to what it is they're saying. We become blind. We don't want to see it or give it permission to be seen. And we don't even allow ourselves to connect with, to feel it. So all of our senses are taken away. And that is silence, a protective silence, not a holy silence. So when we take a protective silence, your own voice, with our own voice, we hold back our thoughts, our feelings, our knowledge out of fear, doubt, and desire to fit in. And her quote really brings forward an acknowledging of the impact of one of the mystical laws: what is in one is in the whole. And this is what I like to point out. And this was what we were talking about, where the client came in and threw it down. It's like, you breathed me. And I'm like, yay, that means we can break into something new. We can come up with something different. And really like allow ourselves to have healthy, clean versions instead of these messy versions. Is that what is in one is in the whole, meaning that when we silence one part of ourselves, one thought, one feeling, one knowing, inner knowing within ourselves, out of fear or doubt or desire to fit in, that ripples across the board into every aspect of our life, disconnecting, like unplugging us and creating this buffer of separation between our knowings, our beautiful thoughts, and our feelings in the light. We cannot do one without the other. What is in one is in the whole. So when we have this protective mechanism up and running, that idea of courageously connecting, feeling, being with something just as it is, honoring that, bringing our full presence to that, and therefore the full flank of our ability to co-create and to manifest, we can't do any of that when this is up and running, because if we're dimming it one place, we're dimming it everywhere. If we're disconnecting in one place, we're disconnecting everywhere. All the things, the knobs on the channels get turned down, right? And so what we want to do is courageously challenge ourselves. And she does that later in her book. So here's another quote from her. She says, "Stop hiding. Meet the messy parts of yourself. Invite them in for a cup of tea. Get to know them. Take responsibility. Forgive yourself and move through the discomfort and keep blanking going." Okay, because I don't want to get censored on all the lovely channels. So, insert explicit there, right? Just keep courageously going. Let's change that word out for her. So let me say that again. She says the step one is stop hiding, right? So we need to stop saying that we're going to engage in messy self-censorship. Which, why are we self-censoring? Because there's a protective fear, a doubt, a worry somewhere that didn't go over well when we shared our truth, when we shared a feeling, when we said, hey, can you just hold space for me while I vent? I don't need you to fix it. I don't want you to do it. This is not really how I really feel. I just need to say this. Like somehow, some way that got censored outside of ourselves. So we start doing it internally within ourselves. So we have to be willing to hold up a loving stop sign to that part of us and say, hey, can we stop running right now? Can we stop hiding from this feeling that while it's not all of me, it is a part of me? And can I get curious about that? Well, those are the messy parts of us. Those are the parts of us that were like, oh, no worries. I don't have an opinion here. I don't have a feeling. That was fine. It was no big deal that you were 30 minutes late and I sat here. It's all good. I got to do my meditations. Yay. Yes, that's true. And there's also maybe a part of you that's like, man, this is just like this situation where, I honor other people's times and they don't honor my time. And what is that about? And blah, blah, blah. Like, so there's some messy thing in here because we're not one thing. Yes, I can take that lemon and turn it into lemonade. Absolutely. And that's a beautiful gift. Again, healthy self-reflection and editing. But this is about, can we meet those parts of us that are a little grittier, that are struggling, that have never been allowed permission to be there? And she says, invite them in for a cup of tea and get to know them. Who are they? What is driving them? What are they afraid of? What do they want? What do they need? What do they feel about me as the quote, captain of the ship? So this is that take responsibility. Like I have to be willing to not just push this off to, oh, this is because so and so happened. This is that one. Like, no, I need to see what is my part in holding this up currently now in this moment. And can I do that in loving and beautiful, compassionate ways? Because there's no room for a harsh inner critic in these self-reflections. And so I love that she also says, forgive yourself. So the medicine of forgiveness, we're going to talk about that a little bit and how that has an alchemical ability within our system to open us up to the ability to have that healing presence. Now we can move in and through the discomfort. My tolerance for those waves that are happening inside of me becomes greater. And I can ride with them and I can surf them and I can be in contact with myself, not just this observer self taking just making clean, clear, detached lists. Like, no, non-attachment and detachment are two totally different things. Oh, I want to go into so many things, and this is a podcast, so I can't. But I have courses that do this, and I have a new project, the Sacred Witness Oracle, that does just this. So if this is speaking to you, check out those show notes below for how to get to those. And get to know them, take responsibility, forgive yourself, move through the discomfort, and keep courageously, is the word we're going to put in there, going, right? This is the same modern invitation. What I love when you find a truth, a soul level truth, it doesn't matter whether it's coming through modern mindsets, coaching skills, this, that, and the other, personal growth development, or ancient mysticism. Because you might know, if you have heard of the mystic Rumi, who was a Sufi Rumi, Sufi Rumi, a Sufi mystic from way back in the day. And he has best known probably for one of his poems called The Guest House. It has a couple different translations out there that are all great, but there are a few that really include the full one. And I'll try to put a link in the show notes to the one that I particularly like. But basically, her little snippet that I just said to you is The Guest House from Rumi. I don't know if it came from that. She doesn't reference it, but it just instantly, it's possible, especially the give it a cup of tea, because his guest house is that. He says he invites you in the poem to open the door to what is present, to bring it in and to serve it tea, because that is, respect. That is hosting. That is connecting. That's not just like holding it at the door. Okay, 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 then great. Whoop. Shut the door, never opening the screen door, right? And he says to treat them as honored guests. Even if they come in like a whirlwind and and these are those big emotions, those thoughts, those things that have been bottled up for so long that need to share what has never been allowed to share. It's going to move around some furniture in our house. It's going to rumble and rock and roll. It's going to feel like in the cocoon when the butterfly or the caterpillar is going chompy, chompy, chompy on itself, right? And breaking itself down. And this is where we realize that self-editing can be beautiful or protective. And to release that protective self-censorship version, it means we have to be willing to feel, to be with, to recognize those messy parts of me, and to recognize that in those messy parts, they hold gifts. They hold the very key to really helping us break through the barrier. In the longer version of Rumi's Guest House, it talks about it tossles and rips the vines that are bounding the heart, right? These old grief and never agains and these jaded, disillusioned parts of us that are like these vines that harden and come and form a heart wall around us. And they're dead growth where no new growth can come in there because they're so solidified. And what these guests are that show up every day in our daily life and come in like whirlwinds with big emotions and thoughts and experiences and ideas that we really want to edit out of fear and doubts and wanting to fit in, that if we can let that go, what that is doing is actually clearing out that barrier, right? And once we do that, Rumi has a promise in there, and he says, opening you up for new delights, some great new delight. Ah, I love that. Like that image is when I do allow that protective vine that has grown for a reason. A vine doesn't just pop up anywhere, like something plants it, something puts it in, something nurtured it, something got it to grow and interweave itself with all these habits. And can we start to soften them? Can we let them be uprooted and rustled and pulled aside so that we can open to new growth, a new delight? And in the longer translation, it says that we don't even know it's there. Like we don't know what beautiful new gifts and experiences and light are going to come from clearing that out. We have to take the leap to be willing to clear that out without necessarily knowing what's going to come back in. Delight, a new delight that we don't know is there. So the practice this week is to help gain more comfort and more awareness with how much self-editing, self-censorship, pick the word that you like in here the best, in a messy way we are really up to on any given day. Again, we can't change what we don't know. So we've got to start with awareness, then acceptance of, oh snap, this is really happening, or like, oh wow, it doesn't happen in with this group of people, but I get around this scenario with this set of like personalities. It comes in like a freight train, and all of a sudden I'm lost. I'm totally disconnected. I've been silenced, and I'm banging on the glass walls of a room saying I can't even get control of showing up the way I want to. And that's really what this practice this week is about. It's just that first step awareness. Now, if you get to the second step of being able to like hold up a stop sign and say, I want to implement a new action, amazing, great, gold stars, rock it out. I'd love to hear what beautiful new habits and ways of being you want to implement. But let's give ourselves some time to linger with that reflection. And the step one is just to start to feel, what does it feel like in my body being when that's happening, so that I can start to have these clues, these little like happy triggers, these little glimmer moments. Oh, I feel that tightening over there. That's typically related with X, Y, and Z. Or, oh, I feel that voice coming in, and we're going to name it in our practices. So you can call it the editor, the protector, the censor. I had one client who called hers like the hall monitor, like the little tweet tweet, don't run in the hall, you know what I mean? Like, so that she had that own part as a part of her. Like, whatever you want to call this piece is really helping us step into understanding, what does that feel like in our body when that's present? What is the mental chatter that's whirling around up there when this is happening, or even right after it happens? Typically, when we're first starting with awareness, it's hard to get it in the moment. It's hard to catch it while we're doing it. It's more on the reflection side and the backside, right? Like afterwards, oh, I just feel so yucky. I feel like I wish I had said that. So what are those phrases that come in that are going to give you a clue? Some part of this editing, this messy editing protective program grabbed hold of you. And again, it's not to make you feel wrong, because there's a reason it's there. Instead, you should feel utmost compassion, utmost like, let me come in, sit down, have some tea, right? And I want to get to know you. And I want to bring in forgiveness for myself and for others that were involved, so that I can show up the way that I want to. So what are those with me? Also, if you're new to me, everything that I'm talking about of how to approach these self-reflections, one, welcome. Hello, I'm Michelle. Is to give you a quick heads up that I really am going to ask you to hold up firm stop signs to those harsh inner critics. In fact, I have a whole training on how to help evolve and heal that inner critic within. So if you are new to me, you might want to like look in. I'll put it in the show notes too. You can hop over there, do that at your own time. But if not, this is just a friendly reminder that when we look inwards, to do so with love, to do what I call the presence of the sacred witness, which is a core aspect of our soul that is the healer within each of us. So I really believe each one of us is our own healer, visionary, mystic, way shower, right? Like we have those inherent capabilities within us. We just get cut off from it, from an ocean of everything we're talking about right now. And so we want to call that part forward to us and really invite it to hold us, to guide us as we do these self-reflections and these awarenesses, as we're working with it. For those of you who don't know, I've put my Sacred Witness teachings of how to cultivate it and awaken to it and the stages of really developing that healing presence within you, into a beautiful Oracle suite, which is the publishing project that I was referencing earlier. And it's getting ready to come out on Kickstarter at the end of this month if you're listening to this in the month of October of 2025. If not, you can look in different ways and you can see it. But I am just so excited for this to come out because it's needed, and it is taking the learnings that I've healed and brought forward through my own healing journey over the last 20 years, and that I've worked with clients with since 2008, and really just bringing those into a box and into an oracle deck with my friend Kim Ganley is the artist of. Oh my gosh, they're gorgeous hand-painted cards. A guidebook with reflection practices and somatic-based practices, like everything like what this is, kind of in a guidebook version, and then a companion book that goes a little bit deeper into really helping you establish those healthy root system within you, through each of those stages. And I am just really so excited about it. So again, what that sacred witness energy invites us into is, remember, everything that we witness in ourselves has a reason for being there, an exquisite reason. And it doesn't just pop up for one thing. So at one point in our lives, what we see, that part of us, both the wounded part and our protective kind of soldiers out front that do the self-editing within us, there's a reason they're there. And actually, if they hadn't been there, we wouldn't have survived as well as we did. In fact, I know from my own reflections that if I hadn't developed some of these reactivities and trauma responses and adaptations, I would not have survived. The times in which I did attempt to take myself off this planet would have worked, and I would have done it much sooner and much more efficiently, if I did not have these protectors in place. So they really do believe they're fighting for our life, because they are. They're the ways in which we are able to handle the environment and the circumstances we find ourselves in. However, they become problematic once we're not in those exact same circumstances. But our mind is really efficient. It wants to take one set that we figure out here and apply it somewhere else. And we have to lovingly create a wedge of stillness and separation that allows us to lovingly challenge that, tend to the parts of us that think it really is true, and not just try to bypass them or cover them up, and also install in those imaginal selves, those ways in which we have that wisdom already within us of how we want to truly be. So like Africa and Rumi both were inviting us into, is we're gonna this week open up to what is our body sharing with us. We're gonna give them a glass of sweet tea or hot tea, whichever, depending on what part of the world that you're in. I'm in the South, so I love half and half tea. And can we sit down and enter into that sacred dialogue? I'm giving them permission to speak freely, to not be edited, have a chance to just be who they are. They don't have to change. They don't have to dress themselves up a certain way for me to be willing to connect with them. No, I'm willing to be in the act of connecting with them just as they are. In fact, I want them to show up that way, right? So can you let them point out ways that they have felt edited in the past or self-abandoned from ourselves? Can we allow them to share their protective stances with us, right? And are we willing to be in that discomfort, to grow our tolerance, our window of tolerance with discomfort, before we have to make it change or shift or hurry up and like, give me that one time at this time frame of my timeline and have it at this age, and we're going to go in there and pull those out and like and undo it, right? Like I love timeline therapy. I work with it, but also can bypass and force our system to work too fast to where it's just giving us the highlights and honestly a lot of times what we think we want, while it's really sitting back there with its arms folded. It's like, go ahead, do your little meditation. I'm not changing because we're not ready to change, right? It's still holding. So we want true willingness so that it holds, right? When we do that timeline therapy and bring that in beautiful, supportive ways. And part of that starts with giving permission to our system not to edit. And so, can we open to that medicine of forgiveness? So, I would love to share with you one of the cards from the Sacred Witness Oracle deck. So, take a look. This is card 50, and it is forgiveness. It calls forward the beautiful plant medicine of dogwood. And this card sits in what's called the soul being section of the deck. So it represents the way in which our soul is asking us to engage our life. Not a high level concept from the mental being, not a feeling sense of just witnessing and being with that can happen in the body or the heart being, but to truly engage this medicine from the soul into how we are showing up in our daily life. And can we bring in this case, the medicine of forgiveness, which is an alchemizer, right? Is that a word? I don't know. It is now. So, can we bring in the alchemy that the medicine of forgiveness does to really help transform and soften those toxic cords, that those briars that I was talking about that form around our heart to protect ourselves? Can we let go of ones that are labeled shame or guilt or blame or need for vengeance? Like each one of those vines has a label on it, how they weave together, right? And the reason why I bring in the medicine of forgiveness, and that really felt guided to come forward as I was reading this, is that without forgiveness, we can't really move into the next step, which is what forgiveness invites us to. And I just had the place. Oh, here it is. So this is from the guidebook. This is a little bit bigger than the one. It's 6 by 9 in the one that's in the thing, but this is my editing version, and I just love this one. So I keep working with it. And it really invites us to remember that forgiveness helps us organically step into the part 2 that happens when we are in the act of sacred witnessing. So the first act of sacred witnessing is, can we not edit? Can we give permission for that which we are witnessing to be itself? Full brain, give it the mic, let it say what it needs to say, shoulder what it is, share what it is holding, uncensored, right? Does it let it fly? The good, the bad, the ugly, it gets to say it without fear of being bullied back into place by compassion protectors, loyalty protectors, fear protectors, and doubts. Like, no, we don't want to silence that part. It gets to say what it needs to say, and we honor its story. It doesn't have to defend itself or justify itself. It gets to just share, right? That's step 1. What happens in step 2 of sacred witnessing, what bubbles up organically on its own, is that we are then asked, do we want to hold on to this wound or do we want to release it? And you would say to me, of course, Michelle, I want to release it. But I want to tell you, in that moment, when you can see this choice point, there is a visceral reaction that wants to say no. And it wants to suck its breath in. It wants to hold itself back. And whether we want to admit that it's there or not, it is, because that is the fear of that this thing, whether I like it or not, has protected me in some way, shape, form, or fashion, right? It has allowed me to either have a sense of like, never again will I let this. So I've gained some power from it. Maybe I've even gained power from what Carolyn Mace calls woundology, which is, because of this wound, people need to walk softly around me. They need to do X, Y, and Z, and I can use this wound as that. Maybe it's because I've identified myself as that. And if I'm not that, and that isn't so innately the first thing that walks through that room, who am I? Right? There's tons of reasons why we would go, no, no. I want to say yes to you, Michelle, but like, no, I can't, right? And that's normal. So step 1, I want to give that permission to be normal and let go of the shame around that. And can we then say that this is where courage comes in again? Can we take a nice deep breath in and say, I know it's scary. I know we're afraid of, who are we if we let that go? Or What if somebody, if I let this go, accuse the universe to give me another one, like that's even worse than this wound? Or, well, this person has never paid for what they've done and it's never been acknowledged, so therefore I can't let it go until this happens, what I call locking yourself into a double bind, right? And the sacred witness is going to say, I know, but but let's put it where it needs to be and not inside you anymore. Let's let this go. Let's surrender this to the universe, right? So this is the sign for surrender. This is the sign for submission. So it's like asking us to let it go, right? And again, those dogwoods grow up and out with those crossroads are a part of them, right? And that's what that healing forgiveness is, a crossroads moment. Are we willing to let go of all of that? Take a nice big breath in and exhale, trusting that the things that we need will be recognized and provided and supported inside of us, even if they're never reflected in the outside world. And that's crazy hard, but it's such a huge part because we're never going to stop self-editing if we want the world around us to change before we can just allow ourselves to create the way our heart is guiding us to create, right? To share, to call that person, to follow that guidance. We won't edit that, stop editing that down if we're waiting for the world to become safe for us. And you can say consciously you're not doing that, but to these little parts, some version of that is happening, right? And so when we exhale and we let that go, the medicine of forgiveness comes in and begins to soften, open, and complete the circuit of from trapped trauma to tended to trauma, to giving ourselves the support that we never received fully, so that we no longer are waiting for somebody else to be healed, to awaken, to have an aha, to have an awareness. No, we become our own healers, our own guru, visionary, and way shower, right? So we unhook, we dismantle all those energetic structures that I was just talking about, and the wound can finally close. It's no longer having to stay ripped open over and over or festering in there with us just trying to put band-aids over top of it. It's fine, it's fine. It's just a flesh wound. Like keep on moving. Like we don't have to do any of that stuff. And it really allows us to say, hey, these parts of us are beautiful, are perfect, and they might heal in a way that has a scar. They might heal in a way that nobody ever could see them, but I'm not embarrassed by them. I accept them. I love them. I see the growth and the strength that's in them inherently, and I now free myself up more. So that self-editing volume gets turned down in the messy version and turned up in the healthy, clean version, right? So let's practice. Let's take a moment and feel into this. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I've covered a lot of ground. Take a nice deep breath in and out and just feel into your body. Think of a time, not a massive self-editing, like on a scale of 1 to 7, 7 being huge self-editing, completely paralyzed, frozen, not happening. 1 meaning, somebody asked me what my favorite color is and I just was like, oh, I don't know. Sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that. But you had that answer in your thing. You just didn't know if that was their favorite color, right? And so think of something a little smaller on the scale, and then just feel in. Where'd you feel that in and around your body? You know, if you could put some descriptive words with that, what would that be? And now opening up to that emotional, mental parts of you, like what thoughts are associated with those feelings and those sensations, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Feel free to pause because the interest of recording, I don't have a lot of silence. And then ask your system, like, what is this protective pattern's name? Is it the safety enforcer? Is it just a protector? Is it the editor, the gatekeeper, the belonging police, the acceptance police? Like, what's the name of this little pattern? I love giving it a name. For me, they come in looking like little bobbleheads because it makes it not so scary to my system and my nervous system. And I remember, again, these protective mechanisms are amazing. So this is where, if you can, to whatever extent it works for you, try to bring some gratitude, some just amazing awe of like, wow, you have protected me for so long. You've done your job so well that it's time to retire, right? And it's time to really start to soften. You don't have to be on the front lines by yourself. This war is no longer waging. And even if those players are in your life, you don't have to engage them the same way because you have the freedom to change. So if it can, just bring some love and some compassion and some real like gratitude and awe to it, right? And then ask it to share with you. Get to know it, right? That's part of what Africa's and Rumi's invitations were. So share with me, genuinely, I want to know. Don't give me what you think I want to hear or anything else like that. Like, just let it reassure it. I'm giving you permission. Even if I have never given it to you before, or I really mean it this time. I really want you to share with me so that I can understand what is driving you. Where did this pattern and this habit come from? Where did we experience outside of ourselves? So then we made it an internal check and balance. And if we stop doing this, what does this protector, whatever its name is, really truly believe will happen if it lets you go outside of its protective pattern? And you might want to pause here and really write that down, right? So the next step is, once you've fleshed that out and you've really given yourself a chance to kind of what I call walk around it in life. So once it shares with you what its fear is and what its nervousness is, don't ask it to change right away. Like, that's kind of like that bypassy thing. Instead, be like, are you willing to change right now? You might have already done it. You might be aware of everywhere in your life that you're up to it. But I like to like pause a moment. And again, I'm not just trying to move my system fast through here. I'm trying to invite it into a friendship with me, right? I'm in this for the long haul. So I'm willing to take a little bit more time here to build a true being in connection with it and not just trying to say, okay, now shift and edit. Right. And so I'd like to invite clients and myself to take it for a walk in my life for like a week. Like, let it see, how do I show up with coworkers? How does that particular pattern show up there? What's different from when I'm on my own on my nature walks? Or does it even show up there? And like, that one beautiful client came in and put her journal down. She's like, dang it, Michelle, it's even in my journal, right? And so just see, where is that? What is it up to? How is it showing up? And like, really allow your life to speak to you. Don't silence it with a quick, fast, pull this one out, shove this new belief in, and working with it. Um, I just recorded and did a live meetup with my Let's Talk Seas sessions, which I absolutely love. I do them. I try to do them once a month. Every once in a while it doesn't happen. But that last session was on limiting beliefs. If you sign up for the next one, you get access to the recordings of past ones, so you can see that one and be a part of it. And then join us in our next live meetup where we take a different topic and I share with you my thoughts about it, and then can engage in live coaching with you right there. It's the best way to get to me because I have a wait list to work with me one-on-one. So these meetups were my answers to people saying, Michelle, we want to get in and to work with you and get your thoughts on different things. And so this is an opportunity while my other courses are coming out or individual work is picking up. So really invite and give yourself that gift to walk around, to see how that is showing up. When you've done that, come back into another meditation and then really invite that sacred witness within to help hold those parts of you that are nervous and afraid of, like, oh, do we really want to change this? That I was talking about, that kind of have a visceral response when that choice point comes forward. Hold them. Have compassion for them. They're not trying to make your life a living heck in a handbasket. They're trying to keep you safe. So lovingly say, I know, trust me. help let the sacred witness hold them so they can soften their attachments to this habit, and then ask, what would be helpful for me going forward? What new way of clean, of healthy self-reflection and editing would be helpful to me? Because I do get guidance that's like, Michelle, don't speak that to this person because there's nowhere for that to land in them. It's not going to go the way you want to. That's healthy guidance versus protective one. We want to try to get to the healthy one, but we got to start with understanding our protective one first. We can't hop over it. That's part two, right? So what you might get is like, okay, a willingness to just see and feel like a tap on your shoulder. I have very early on, I was in a different shamanic training, and it was like, where would you like spirit to get your attention when it's like, quote, tapping on your shoulder when you're running down the wrong road faster, you're too lost in that whirlwind, you can't hear it. How would you like spirit to get your attention? And I had just had my first daughter, and I kind of felt that, and I was like, oh, she kind of tugs on me, but I don't want it to be on the places where I had. And so for me, it's the inside of my right forearm. When I feel like there's just a gentle, like, hey, Michelle, like a friend coming up to somebody and I don't want to disturb you, I feel that on the inside. And that's like a place you just don't touch. So that's for me, is if I feel that, that's a clue to me that I'm passing my own guidance for me to pause, right? Hold up an inner stop sign and then be willing, in this case, to ask, like, okay, I must be self-censoring somewhere in a messy way, that's cutting me off from my own thoughts and my voice and my ideas out of fear or doubts or wanting to fit in, right? And so how then can I soften? I call in that medicine of forgiveness, knowing that in that moment, it brings in the medicine of connection, acceptance, all of them. It's like the gatekeeper in a good way to all of those medicines of the soul. So if I'm willing to open to forgiveness, I'm willing to open to all of them, right? Think of that beautiful dogwood energy coming in. I love the ones that have the pink edges to them in that beautiful cream one. That's the one that I asked him to paint in the deck. Again, I can show you that picture. And then open to what old narratives, self-abandonment, fears are poking holes and cutting me off and silencing myself. And how then can I make a different choice there? What would be helpful? So right now, if as we're talking, something's coming in, I just invite you to write that down and see if you can make that commitment this week. I want to take this for a walk this week. I want to try. Nice deep breath in and out. So join me, if it feels good to you, the soulful practice for this week as I set that intention to bring awareness to when I find myself stuck in the habit of messy self-auditing, editing, or censorship, whichever one you like. I ask for Reiki energy to help guide my attention, so bring my conscious awareness to that point, to the ways in which I can feel that in and around my body. And then how can I support myself in that? So remembering to invite those parts of me to the table, give them a glass of tea or a cup of tea, wanting to be in sacred dialogue with them, calling forward that medicine of forgiveness. Okay, I've invited them in, I've sat them down, but I'm really in like, hold up, like, I don't think we should be thinking that, or should, like, it's like, oh, wait, whoops, I need to go back. I need to invite another part of me in that place of forgiveness, that sacred witness energy, whichever one feels good to you, so that both myself can be free to hear the discomfortable parts, discomforting parts, the parts that I don't really want to work with, the parts I have disconnected in some way, shape, form, or fashion, and these parts of me that don't want to, that are fearful that they're going to be met with such harsh judgment and critics. Like, we can soften all of that and open to that support. And then ultimately, I give myself permission to release messy editing. And I welcome the parts of me to share their voice, their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, so I can move into them I can understand them, I can move through them, and ultimately I can help that part of me that is very burdened, very stuck, very lost, very alone, release and come home to my heart, come home to feeling more safety and security in my body and quieting the mind, right? From this point, then I invite Reiki energy to help me engage in the flow of the choice points that naturally come forward, allowing myself to step out of that habit of the whirlwind self-editing so I can see what choices are available to me and engaging and courageously doing, right? Allowing myself to courageously step into motion with that which my heart and my soul is calling me to be, unedited and true to who I am. So that's the practice for this week. I'd love to hear how this whole concept of self-censoring and editing, why we do it, why we get stuck in it, how it gets messy as heck, and then also how to break out of this with that courage and forgiveness really is helpful to you. I would love to hear. If you are interested also in the Sacred Witness Oracle, check out the links below. If this is during our Kickstarter campaign that you're watching this or right before it, you can join our pre-launch list or come join us in the Kickstarter campaign and get the best like pre-order prices before we release it to the public in the fall, and let that be with you. Again, all those links are below, along with some of the links to different readings that I've already done specifically on that healing presence. I thought I put that one in here too. So I'd love to hear how this practice goes for you, offering you light, love, and joy, and I'll see you in the next one, Michelle. Thank you for listening to Soulful Practices. For more information on how to work directly with me or one of my guests, check out the show notes below. We'd love for you to also let us know what parts of this episode are speaking to you and how this practice is supporting you on your healing and spiritual journey. Please share this podcast with fellow seekers, travelers. Together, we can create a wave of soul-led beings in this world, offering you light, love, and joy on your journey. Michelle Holling-Brooks. Until next time.